Welcome to the SImple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables. And whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a cafe au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about confidence, how to build it, the benefits of having it, and at the end of the podcast, in this week's Petite Pleasure, I'll introduce you to a hands-on opportunity to build your self-confidence when I interview Tracy Hooper, who founded the Confidence Project. So let's get started. What exactly, first of all, is confidence? I think it's important we know what we're pursuing before we talk about how to acquire it. Those who exude confidence seem to have this energy or this air about them that people are drawn to. These people are neither arrogant, nor are they people with low self-esteem, or are they insecure about themselves. Rather, they hold your attention with that certain je ne sais quoi, I guess you could say. Sometimes putting your finger on exactly those ingredients that make up someone with confidence can be difficult, but ultimately, a person with confidence is someone who has a sense of assuredness, a sense of knowledge, and appropriate understanding of the situation in which you find them. The definition in the dictionary basically just says you have a firm trust in them. Or in the book, The Confidence Code, their definition of confidence is simply the alignment of one's skills with the task at hand. And I think that's important to point out, that you can be confident in one moment and not in the next. For example, you put me on a horse and I am confident. I grew up with horses as a kid. At 5 years old, I was riding horses. Now it's like nothing. If you put me in the middle of a swim tank with dolphins, I know this is a random example, I've never done it. I don't know how to behave. I probably won't do anything silly, but I wouldn't feel really confident in that situation because I haven't been there. My knowledge of the task at hand is minimal, whereas my knowledge of riding a horse is far exceeds my knowledge of swimming with dolphins. Now, that is the difference, and I think it's something to keep in mind. Even though we may be confident in certain areas, we may not be confident in others, but that doesn't mean we can't have a certain level of confidence at all times. And that's where just having a confidence about who you are and what you know you can do at a basic level, your behavior, your thoughts, is imperative to building that self-confidence. So today, I'd like to begin with sharing 5 simple ways we can learn how to exude more confidence, to genuinely gain self-confidence. And then we'll talk about the benefits of doing that at the end of that. So the first of the 5 is simply, and I'm going to start with a superficial, and I don't mean superficial in a negative sense. I mean superficial in what people see. So the first step in trying to gain confidence is to know your style. Know your style. In the interview I mentioned with Tracy Hooper that you'll hear at the end of the podcast, in our off taping, or when we weren't recording, she mentioned an interesting statistic to me, and I wanted to share it with you now because it fits with this point number 1, knowing your style. When someone meets you for the first time, their first impression is based on 3 things. And I'm going to share with you really quickly 3 of those things, and the percentages of each, the power of each of these have on what determines what that impression will be. 55% of your visual presentation to the person you have just met helps to determine what the impression will be on the other party. 55%, your visual appearance. Now, it could be looks, but it also just how your hair looks, the clothing you've chosen, your posture, how you carry yourself. So that's 55. 38% is your vocal expression, how you speak. And Tracy is going to talk a lot about that in the interview. It's fantastic what she talks about with regards to authentic voice. And then 7% is what you say. Something to consider when you go in for an interview for a job, or you're meeting someone and you're trying to impress on a date, different things like that. 55% is visual. And so Our first way to improve confidence is to know your style. Know how to exude your strengths, whether it be with your body physique, okay? Know how to dress for your proportions. Know how to use clothing to to accentuate the positive and camouflage what isn't. Also to create a bit of mystery, to not reveal all. Also think about your abilities. What are the strengths that you can, share with others? What is a way for you to introduce yourself to others by doing things you love or sharing a little bit about yourself to help make a connection? So that idea of knowing what brings out your strengths, knowing what you love so that you're showing your authentic self is a great way to build that self-confidence, because when you show who you really are, then you're excited about it. And that's authentic. It's easy to get excited. And that people will notice that authenticity and be drawn to that. And you talk about things you love and so on and so forth. Again, that's spontaneous. That's authentic. So know your style, exude that style, exude confidence. Step 2, or idea 2 to build your confidence: get to know yourself. And by getting to know yourself, you're ultimately going to discover your style and discover what best accentuates who you are and your strengths. And so 1 and 2 really do tie together. But when you know what the path that you're on is the path you should and want to be on, that ties with your passions and your purpose, when you know that the goals you've set and the values that you adhere to are right for you, it's easier to involve yourself in conversations with people regardless of what their value system is or their beliefs, because you can listen without judgment. You can listen and enjoy. You can easily say no when something is offered that just doesn't fit with your plan, but you don't have to be rude about it. When it is something that you're interested in or you're excited about, it's that much easier to know. Yeah, hey, I just did that last weekend too. I was hiking and I went to that particular peak. Did you discover that? You can authentically connect with people as well. So that authenticity, again, is what is going to help build those relationships, strengthen that trust that you are presenting yourself as who you really are. The third way to build confidence, and I know this is going to freak some people out, but face your fears. And maybe thinking, well, wait a second, if I don't have confidence doing this, how can I build confidence? Well, it's simple. When we attempt something we don't think we can do, and then we eventually do conquer this fear, we have a shot of confidence that is through the roof. For example, if you're a runner and you've never completed a marathon, and you think, man, 26.2 miles, that's so far, I don't think I can do it. You've trained for 2 months, 3 months, or whatever your regime is, and on race day, you do it. You push through the pain, you round that last corner, and you cross that finish line. There is such a confidence elevation. But even if it's not a marathon, whether it's, simply receiving a job promotion, or you flip your first omelet successfully without making a mess in the kitchen, there is a sense of understanding that, well, while I may not have thought I could do it initially, I eventually did do it, and I did it well. And when you come up against any other situation that's new and frightening, you can put that track on in your head and tell yourself, yeah, well, there were a few things in the past that I didn't think I could do, but when I did them, I surprised myself. It is a self-perpetuating prophecy, because you continue to remind yourself, I can do things I don't think I can do. I can do things because I have done things, and that keeps building and building and building. Here's an example I like to bring up when I talk about confidence and that people can feel it, and you feed the energy that you create within yourself, whether it's negative or positive. As someone who's grown up with horses and rode horses, horses can sense if the rider on their back is nervous, confident. It's how they're sitting, it's how they're moving, it's the energy and that horse literally is feeling that energy. And depending on the age of the horse and obviously the temperament of the horse, different horses will react differently. But if it is a very sensitive horse, and I have ridden a few of these sensitive horses, there is a difference when you are calm and you've had a good day and you're just going out for a leisurely ride, or that you're going to make that jump no problem. The horse feels it. The horse completes what you want them to complete. It's absolutely amazing. But then on those days where you're agitated or you're scared or you're uncertain, the horse feels that too. Now, they may not buck you off, but they may get agitated. They may be a little just get sketchy about different things and maybe unsure about things. Confidence breeds confidence. Doubt breeds more doubt. And I use that example because you can foster your doubt in yourself or you can build it. And so when you get presented with moments of fear and doubt, look back on your catalog of life of the things you have done that were new and you finally did it. And guess what? You could do it. Remember those moments because everyone has them, no matter how small. Hey, you used to crawl and now you walk. Start there if you have to. You can do anything that's new. You simply have to try. And that's when confidence begins. Keep being that person who moves from crawling to walking to running. You can do it. Just trust yourself. Have patience with yourself and start paying attention to that talk in your head because that voice that's telling you can or can't is controlled by you. You can change that tape recorder in your head. And that really has a lot to do with whether or not you are going to be confident or not. And you can train that, and that's the good thing. All right, so that's the third way to help build your confidence. The fourth way is to take care of yourself. And we're talking health-wise with the food you eat, the exercise you are involved with, but also the pampering you allow yourself. This pampering is not something to feel guilty about. When you take care of yourself, you can be at your best self when you wake up in the morning, when you go to work and lead that meeting or give that speech. You can be well rested, well fed, so that your body and your mind are functioning at the best of its ability, so that therefore you can present your best self and have the most promising opportunity to be successful. So pampering is something that I think should happen on a regular basis. And one of the things I learned from when I was in graduate school, I was going through my teaching program, my mentor teacher, she was actually enjoying her last year of teaching. She was about to retire. And one of the things she always did was at the end of every month, she may still do it even when she's retired. She should, definitely. But she would get a massage. And she felt absolute no guilt about getting herself this pampering moment, this hour of absolute pleasure. But also there's so many health benefits with massage, and not just teaching, but so many jobs that we are involved, so many jobs, whether they're paid or not, parenting, take a toll on anyone because we give our best selves. We give our energy and we need to be restored as well. And so again, when we take care of our health, we can be our best self, which gives us an opportunity to be more confident because we'll have more of those successes when we face our fears. So these all kind of pile together. They all kind of meld together. So that's 4. 5, some people would say, some people would say, if you don't have confidence, fake it till you make it. And that's a great catchphrase. But as Katty Kay and Claire Shipman point out in the Confidence Code, it's not a great idea to fake it till you make it in the sense of confidence is an authentic action. It is something that people inherently feel about you when they're around you, that you know what's going on and you can do it. So if you're faking it, people are going to feel that. They're going to sense that to some degree. And it may be very, very slight or subtle, but it's still there. What they suggest, instead of faking it till you make it, is simply just take action. Take action and move forward. Move forward. You will figure it out as you go. And you will be making mistakes, but so long as you keep striving forward, moving forward, you're learning. So you're learning how to do it better next time. You're adjusting and you're experiencing it in real time, firsthand experience, which is absolutely invaluable. And simply having that experience is going to boost your confidence. Again, coming back to facing your fears. You've experienced it. You know you can survive it. You know you can do it. And that will boost your confidence. So that 5th one is simply to take action. So long as you're putting your best self forward, you're doing your absolute best, that's all you can ask for. And each time will get better. You will learn something more. All right, so those are the 5 ways that you can help improve your confidence. Now, once you start to do these, you're going to start to see the benefits. And some of the benefits that you're going to see, let's talk about those, because I want to give you kind of a carrot. And I think we all have experienced some or maybe all of these already in our lives. But the gift of confidence is an amazing thing. First of all, it can strengthen relationships, specifically romantic relationships. When you are confident of yourself, not arrogant, full of yourself, or have low self-esteem, so insecure that you think everyone's out to get you and everyone's going to get you and hurt you and destroy you or your relationships. When you are confident in a relationship, you can create a healthy relationship. All right. You are less likely to choose someone who is not right for you, and you're going to be gravitating towards someone who also has a healthy self-confidence, right? Which is the first step, finding decent and respectful people to enjoy your company, whether in friendships, work, or in romantic life. All right, so that's one benefit, which is crucial. Having healthy relationships in life is a crucial pillar of building a simply luxurious life, as we talked about in the first podcast. Now, the second one is you will also have the opportunity to be more successful at work. You can be trusted to be given more responsibilities because you are exuding this authority in your field. You become an expert. They want to, promote, whether it's promote you, put that trust in you, which ultimately improves your success, your salary, perhaps your experiences, builds your resume as well. 3, you have an increased peace of mind. You know what your strengths are. You are not talking negatively about yourself. You're speaking positively about yourself, and you're also curious, moving forward and doing your best. You're willing to face your fears, so you're not hindered by them. Thus, you're reducing your anxiety, then heightening your peace of mind, which for all aspects of your life, personal and professional, is obviously a huge one, which then ultimately, number 4, improves your health. Because when your stress level goes down, when you eliminate the unnecessary stress, your health improves. You sleep better at night, you worry less, and then you can, since you have a good night's sleep, you can be your best during the day. And the 5th one is you will have or start to create greater successes, whether at work, whether at home. If you are following the step number 5 we talked about in how to gain confidence by simply trying or taking action, that is the most important component in gaining confidence, because in order for anything to be achieved in your life, you have to take action. I like to say, in order to gain traction, you have to take action. But it's true. In order to turn a dream into reality, you have to do something. In order to do something, you have to have the confidence to move forward to try to achieve it. It may not be easy to get there, but there's only one way to gain it. So there are some fantastic benefits. And if we want to sum it up in one simple quote, I found this quote in the Confidence Code. A scientist they interviewed simply said, "Life on confidence is a remarkable thing." And indeed it is. To find the show notes for this part of the podcast with a list of benefits and how to exude confidence, stop by the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast5. As well, you'll find links to the book I've been mentioning, The Confidence Code, as well as a list of the 5 ways to gain confidence and the benefits. Now, a brief 1-minute intermission before we dive into this week's Petite Pleasure, where I interview the Confidence Project's founder, Tracy Hooper. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Today, I am happy to welcome Tracy Hooper, the founder of the Confidence Project, to the Petite Pleasures segment of the SImple Sophisticate. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you, Shannon. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I am so excited that you took the opportunity to introduce yourself to my listeners. Let me first explain to my listeners how we met. Now, I had the opportunity to meet you when I was vacationing on the north coast of Oregon. You are the owner of Distinct Beach Lodgings, and Gearhart is where I stayed. Gearhart Ocean Inn, and I went there with my dogs a couple of times, and we've been conversing ever since. And when you introduced or talked to me about the Confidence Project, I knew I wanted to share this with my listeners. So could you first kind of share what the mission statement is of the Confidence Project, and maybe share what inspired you to create it?
Sure. The mission of the Confidence Project is to help people feel comfortable and connected in any situation. So I've noticed over the past several years that people are smart and tech savvy and even traveled, but they seem to be hungry for some simple social and business skills to help them feel comfortable and ease, in any situation.
Sure.
So I thought, I actually have some friends who were working with some young professional women in Portland, and they asked me if I would host an etiquette evening. And I said, that would be great. I'd love to do that. And so in this evening, we talked about introductions and conversations and how to feel comfortable in conversations. And at the end of the evening, I said to these young women, would you like to have an opportunity to practice some of these skills? And Shannon, they practically jumped out of their seats.
I would have. My hand would have been going up in the air like crazy.
So one woman actually said, I kind of remember my parents teaching me some of these skills, but I didn't really take them seriously. And now I'm in the business world, and I'm not really comfortable in networking events. I'm not really comfortable introducing myself to other people who I work with or people who I'm trying to, get them to buy my product or something. So now I need to learn these skills, this young woman said. So I said, okay, great, let's start something. So a couple of weeks later, I got these young women together and 6 other young women who I know in Portland, and we all gathered in our family room, and I said to them, so what do you think this evening is all about? And one woman said, I think it's a crash course on becoming a grown-up.
Okay.
And that's kind of how the Confidence Project started. I thought this is a way for people to feel comfortable with their own presence. And what's been astonishing to me is it's not just young people, not just millennials. It is people of all ages. They are really interested in being comfortable with themselves in any kind of situation. And I believe that by practicing these classic skills, that people can learn how to feel comfortable, and then they become more confident.
Well, I like that you say that. Yeah, they want to become more confident with themselves in any situation. So can you give some specific examples of what this genuine confidence looks like, or maybe what it feels like even to the person who has that newfound confidence? Because I think you're right. I think a lot of us are very tech savvy now. I think we are willing to go out and explore the world, but because there's so much tech, we don't have to interact if we don't want to necessarily all the time. So what does it look like, or what does it feel like?
Well, first of all, I always encourage people to be comfortable introducing yourself. And I always say, introduce yourself to yourself in the mirror. Look at yourself in the mirror and introduce it. Good morning, I'm Tracy Hooper. Good morning, I'm Shannon Ables. That way you really get to see what you look like to other people, what your facial expression is. And then I encourage people to practice shaking their hands of family and friends, using your first and last name and looking someone in the eye. And if you do that, if you use your first and last name, if you look someone in the eye with a firm handshake, you cannot imagine how profound that is in the first step in developing confidence. Because people respond to it.
I was going to say they do. People do respond to that. And that's one of the benefits is there's an exchange of that positive energy, or that exchange of, well, I trust this person to do whatever it is or to work with me on this. So what are some other benefits that you've seen, or maybe just specific or just random examples of, hey, I've got my confidence now. What am I going to see a change in my life? What are some things you kind of talk to your clients about?
People will start to listen to you. Will be interested in hiring you. People will be curious about promoting you. People will want to date you. They'll esteem you. They'll follow you. There'll be a presence about you when you present yourself in a way that says, "This is who I am, and I am happy to meet you." It doesn't happen overnight, but just that simple technique of introducing yourself like you are comfortable with your own presence is a very powerful thing. The other thing we work on, Shannon, is something called 10 seconds of you. And this really helps to build confidence. Remember the 30-second elevator speech?
Oh, yeah. We always hear about that elevator speech.
Exactly.
Got to have it ready.
Got to have it ready. And now what I'm discovering is that people don't have time for that.
Okay.
They really don't want to listen to 30 seconds. But if you can get, I know it's incredible, isn't it?
Yikes, our world. But you know, I think you're right. I think you're right. So what is this 10 seconds of you?
So 10 seconds is if you can introduce yourself to someone and give them 10 seconds of you with a hook, something that would make them want to learn more about you. Then they will ask the next question, and then the next. So for instance, one of these great young women in this group, and by the way, I work with men and people of all ages, but this happens to be a woman who's an artist, and her name is Hannah Concannon. And she's a makeup artist. And so she came to one of the Confidence Project workshops. And she said, "I don't really want to tell people that I'm a makeup artist because that sort of has certain connotations. I want to do other kinds of art too." And she's sort of back and forth with what she wanted to say. And somebody in the group said, "Do you have any Instagram followers?" We said, "What do you do?" She said, "Well, for 365 days, I've created a different look on my face.
Ooh.
Wig, makeup, and you should see, she has a
blog.
Hook. Yeah, it's called The Dress Up Box."
Okay.
That is her blog. And so over the course of the year, she had all these different faces. And she now has 50,000 followers on Instagram.
That is impressive.
That's impressive. So everybody looked at her and said, "Hannah, this is what you say. My name is Hannah Concannon. I'm an artist with 50,000 followers on Instagram." And she was so excited about that because it said who she was. It gave them a hook to ask more about what she does. And then that gives you confidence when people want to ask and know the second question.
Well, and I think that's huge, just having the first, I guess you could say, that key to get you in the door, just that first little hook to let you feel more confident as soon as you begin a conversation. Because you're right, a conversation can go anywhere, but you have to know how to start the engine.
That's right.
And so this is one tool that you offer in your confidence project, but can you kind of talk listeners through what a workshop would be like? Because you offer a handful of different workshops for all different levels and interests, as I saw on your website, confidenceproject.com. What would an experience at your workshop be like?
Well, the first thing, it's generally from 10 to 4. And the first thing we do is we talk about introductions. So how to introduce yourself, how to introduce someone else, how to start a conversation, how to keep a conversation going, how to welcome someone else into a conversation, how to enter a conversation that's already in process that you'd like to be a part of, but you aren't yet. How to do those things. And then really this is the one that people love, exit lines.
Oh, yes.
Shannon, everybody wants exit lines.
What does that say about us? But I think we want to be gracious. I think wouldn't you say that's part of wanting to have an exit line, is to be gracious and appreciative of enjoying the conversation? Or why do you think people want an exit line, I guess is a good question.
Well, I think because they get stuck. You know, they're at a meeting, they're at a conference, they're at a networking event, they're at a social event, and they start talking to somebody and they don't know how to get out of it. And as you say, graciously, they don't know how to graciously exit from the conversation. So we actually practice exit lines. You want to hear one of my favorites?
Go for it. I want to. Yes. Examples, please.
So you're having a conversation with someone, and generally when you're ready to end it, they probably are too. But they don't know how to get out of it either. So I always think it's good to just come up with your own. So I always say to people, you know, it's been such a pleasure to visit with you. I know you want to get around and talk with other people, so I'll let you go and mingle. But thank you so much for our conversation.
I like that. You're saying thank you, but you're also saying I've enjoyed this time, and enjoy the rest of the evening or party or whatever you're at. That's a great idea.
Exactly.
I love that.
The graceful dismount, we call it.
That's beautiful. Well, and it's a good memory tool. I think it's about building your toolbox. And so those are a few of the things. One of the things I think that I noticed on the website, but also you and I've had this conversation of the tools in your their toolbox, is finding your authentic voice.
Yes.
I love this, and I think a lot of us instinctively know what it is when someone has a voice that we're drawn to, or have a certain feeling with a certain voice, but we don't know how to explain it. But you have taught or explained to me beautifully. Could you kind of talk to the listeners about what an authentic voice is and why it's, I think, important, very important for each of us to find our authentic voice?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for asking. Well, first of all, my background is in TV news. And so I was a reporter and an anchor for several CBS affiliates back on the East Coast of the United States. I know you have listeners everywhere. And also I've been doing voiceover work for about 30 years. So I'm really sensitive to voices. And what I've noticed in the past several years is that, especially with young women, but I am noticing this with men too, there is something that is actually called by vocal professionals called vocal fry. And it's where people sit on their vocal cords. They literally sit on their vocal cords, and it becomes a very raspy, kind of a low, gravelly tone. So it sounds something like this. It's so nice to see you today. You look really great. And it makes us sound world weary and tired, and it's not real. The experts are saying that it's coming from reality TV.
Oh, interesting.
That this whole sort of phenomenon of this vocal fry. And then the other thing that I'm hearing from a lot of young women is sort of a very high-pitched voice that sort of sounds like, oh my God, you look so cute. Oh, it's so nice to see you. And that's not authentic either. And I work with a woman here in Portland, and she comes to all the workshops here in Portland, Oregon. And her name is Linda Bryce. And she is a voice expert, and she believes, as I do, that everyone has a real voice inside of them. But like everything, we imitate what we see, yep. Whether it's a haircut or a style or decorating or anything. And so I think what Linda tries to do is help people to breathe properly, really breathe from the belly, so that the voice that comes out of everyone is unique. It's your own voice, but it's powerful. It has depth to it. It has authenticity. And it's been so interesting in the Confidence Project workshops because we work with Linda for a couple of hours, and everybody will get on the floor and breathe properly. We have yoga mats out for everybody. Great. And they really learn how to breathe properly to get that real voice coming forth. And people notice it right away. There's sort of this huge applause when someone says, oh my gosh, there's your voice. There it is. To people they've never met before who are in this workshop. So I think there are all kinds of ways. Of course, there are voice coaches everywhere. I think we carry our voice wherever we go. So we need to find the one that belongs to us, that we were born with, and that is powerful. And everyone has one, and you can find it mostly through breathing and, once again, practice.
Well, and I think when, like you said, finding your authentic voice, because when you find that authentic voice, people are drawn to authenticity, and then they're turned off from someone with a high-pitched voice if that's not their real voice. And I think people can sense it without being able to explain why they are either turned off or turned on. I think that's great advice. And every once in a while I catch myself, okay, Shannon, why did you end that sentence with an up note or an inflection? Why did you leave it with a lack of confidence? I have to catch myself doing that. And I appreciate you bringing that to the listeners' attention, because I think it's something we can all just be more conscious of. One question, or there's a few more questions I want to ask, but this one question is, as you said, your projects are based in Portland, and you also mentioned that they're going to be available in Baltimore. Is that correct? Portland, Oregon. Make sure I'm clear about that. Portland, Oregon, but also in Baltimore. Is that correct?
Right, and that's because most of my family lives on the east coast of Maryland, and we're going back to an event in October. So I thought, well, I'll just create a Confidence Project workshop there and invite people who live in the Baltimore area to come to the Confidence Project. That particular one there will be the Confidence Project for Wise Women. And this is something that I've come up with at a request of a friend who's in her 60s. And she said, gosh, I'd like to kind of brush up on my own etiquette skills and being comfortable with my own presence. If I got some friends together, would you would you host that? And I said, sure. And so we did this past June, and it was so successful that I've decided to offer two more. And it's for women 50 and older who want to kind of brush up on their skills and maybe have some influence on their adult children or even grandchildren on being mannerly, being gracious, not using filler words. If I got a dime for every like I heard, you too, as an English teacher.
I know what you mean. And yeah. It's so true. Well, and so you have 50 and older, but you have ones for 30 and 40-year-olds. You have professionals. You have ones that are just graduating from college. I think this confidence project would be a fantastic gift to a college graduate, but also, like you just said, a gift to yourself. I think that's something, an investment in yourself. And if a reader or a listener is not able to attend or come to Portland or come to Baltimore, what are a few things that we could do on a daily basis that would ultimately make us not only feel more confident, but also exude that confidence? What would you've talked about a few already. You've offered a wealth of information. I'm going to try to pull out a few more from you before I let you go, if that's possible.
Sure. Well, one of the things I do want to think is important is I don't know how this sounds, invest in a good haircut. That gives you confidence when you have a haircut that suits your sensibility, your face, your lifestyle. I think it's such an important thing to do. I remember, if I could tell a quick story, when my husband and I were first married. My husband went to graduate school, and we were in a city where I'd never been before. And so we're driving along one day, and I said to him, stop the car. And he said, what's the matter? And I got out, and I ran down the street because I had seen this woman, and I said to her, I love your haircut. Who cuts your hair? And she said, I get it done at so-and-so salon. And I got back in the car, and my husband, Henry, said to me, why did you do that? I said, because it's really hard to find somebody who can cut your hair the way you like it. So I ended up going to that woman's salon for 2 years while we lived in New Haven, Connecticut. So invest in a good haircut. That helps build confidence. I think makeup. I think makeup is the unsung hero of confidence. And there's interesting studies that show that women who wear makeup are taken more seriously in business than women who don't. Now, what's also fascinating is that if you wear too much makeup, that has a bad connotation. Mm. So it's knowing just what you need. I would say for people in their early 20s, mascara and lipstick is just fine. As we get older, I think concealer, foundation, it all just kind of gives you a finished look. It's not about being feminine necessarily, it's about being polished.
I like that word.
I think a good haircut and good makeup really help you to feel that way. I read a book that was published by a man who had interviewed women who were all over 80 or something, I don't know. And one of the women said, I never go out to the mailbox without my lipstick on because you never know who you're going to meet.
It's true. Isn't that what Chanel said too as well? Always dress up. You never know. Your future could be waiting for you around the corner. I think that's absolutely great advice. I appreciate you sharing a few extra tools. I want to make sure that readers know that they can go online to confidenceproject.com to find your schedule, to learn what each class entails, and so much more. If readers aren't in the Portland area or Baltimore, Maryland area, what's another way? Is there another way that readers or listeners can experience the Confidence Project?
I am offering one-on-one Confidence Projects training via Skype.
Ooh, so they could take your lessons around the world. I love that.
Absolutely. And I'm also going to be creating some Confidence Project tools that people can purchase. And I haven't put all that together yet, but this is coming.
All right, before we leave today, Tracy, do you have any last words you'd like to share with our readers about the confidence and living your best life?
Well, I really believe that confidence comes from practice. I think the more we practice, the better we get at anything. Scott Hamilton, the Olympic ice skater, has this quote, "We fall down all the time. If there's anything that's following me from my skating career into my life, it's getting up." And I think that's what the Confidence Project is all about. It's about falling down and practicing, picking yourself up and starting over and over and over again. And I really don't think that let me put it to you this way. I believe that confidence does not come from necessarily where you grew up, what neighborhood you grew up in, what your father did, where you went to school. I think these skills can be learned at any age. And I've known plenty of people who have lots of means, who are not very gracious, and don't necessarily have some comfort in the way they present themselves. And I know many other people who come from very little means who are the most gracious, elegant people you'd ever want to meet. So it doesn't have to do with income or net worth or your background. It comes from wanting to be a gracious, elegant person, no matter what you do for your life, in your life, and then practicing those skills that can help you to develop that confidence and carry it forward. And I also think, Shannon, that when you feel confident, it lifts other people up. Yeah. When you present yourself as, my name is Tracy Hooper, it's a pleasure to meet you, that lifts other people up to say, well, my name is Shannon Ables, and it's a pleasure to meet you too. So it's really exciting to have that kind of chemistry that comes between two people who are connecting, and it can start with you. It's very, I love this work.
Well, I can see why. When you're helping people become their best selves or reach their true potential, that's similar to what we're doing here on the blog and the podcast. Thank you, Tracy, for stopping by today.
Pleasure.
The link to the Confidence Project and information on all the information we talked about today on today's Petite Pleasure will be available on today's show notes at www.thesimplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast5. And I want to again thank Tracy Hooper for stopping by today and sharing with us a little bit about how to gain more confidence in our everyday lives. Certainly something worth investing in. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petite Pleasure, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each Monday's podcast, where I'll recommend a book, a film, a recipe, or from time to time, like today, introduce you to an expert who offers insight into how to live simply luxuriously. Thank you for tuning in to the SImple Sophisticate podcast. For more ideas and inspiration, stop by the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com, or subscribe to the weekly newsletter, which arrives in your inbox every Friday to help you stay caught up on the most recent podcasts and blog posts. Until next Monday, bonjour!